Hey guys, Trent here again. So today I'm going to start tutorial number 4, and this is going to go over a couple of things. One of them is the actor tooltip, which is going to be basically the little tooltip that hovers over top of any of the dropped items that fall on the ground from when you open a chest. And also the tooltip that it draws when you hover over it. Um, the hovering of this other tooltip, this is the one where when you hover your mouse over it, it'll pop up. It's kind of like this little tooltip here that you see on the screen there. And the thing about that is the way I have it set up is that you can hover over the item when it spawns. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play and show you. When it spawns on the ground, you can hover over it and see the items, right? You don't have to do it this way, but I just attached it to this tooltip here, so that way when you hover over it, you can see what it is. Like, another location would be like in the bag or something. Like you can have maybe your character picked up the item, and inside the bag, you could have it to where this tooltip pops up when you hover over it inside your bag or something. I just thought it would be kind of nice to have a little hover over the item when you actually see it on the ground, so that way you don't have to, well, just as a test mostly, but that way you can kind of see what you're getting without having to pick things up and stuff like that. So these are the two things I'm going to be working on today in this video. This one back here that you see, and then this big one that you see in front of you here. So I'm going to go ahead and exit that. So the first thing that you need to remember, or that you need to do if you haven't done this yet, is go back and watch the first tutorial, the preparation tutorial. In that tutorial, I went over making these tooltips right here, and that you need to make with them. But basically, you didn't need to actually worry about any of it. You just needed to make like a copy, like a version of a widget that's going to get prepared. And then start designing it however you want it to be. So if you already did that, then that's good. You can go ahead and follow along with the rest of the tutorial. If you did not follow, or if you did not do that, then I suggest you go back and watch that first tutorial. It'll go over just creating these widgets. All you really need to do is create a widget. Go to interface, create a widget blueprint, and then you're going to want to make one that's called actor tooltip, and one that is basically it's going to be a base model. These are all going to be a base. There's going to be a where is it here? I think I made, oh yeah, so the official tooltips, these I'm just going to let you in on a little secret here. These right here are actually not being used right now. The ones that I have right here, I have my official ones inside this folder right here, and that's because what I ended up doing was, these were like my first ones, my test ones, and I made them all different. They're all a separate class. This is what I suggest doing, is going in. If you made them before, then just go ahead and well, don't delete them, but keep them aside. You'll want to use them for reference, but create a new one, a brand new widget interface blueprint right here. And you're going to want to start, make one an item tooltip, and call it item tooltip base or something like that. This is basically going to be the tooltip foundation master class, right? This is going to be if you want to make others, then you're going to be creating them from this base right here. And so you can go ahead and do that all now. We're going to need however many you want. If you just want one, then just make the base, and you can use the base if you really want to, but I wouldn't use the base for anything. The base should be empty. It can have whatever you want in it here, but all this stuff, like this stuff in here, is all going to get replaced. The picture, all this stuff is going to get replaced. So all this that you see here is really not actually going to be used on every one, and the base never gets called, basically. So I have I have my small versions of that, my children, and they all look like it, but they're actually always going to be different because everything gets replaced all at runtime. So you're going to need one base and however many items you actually want. So if you want common, elite, rare, and legendary or whatever. So I'm going to go over one of these. I'm going to go over the base actually because that's the one with all the functionality. These ones, if you go into my graph, they're literally empty. They have nothing in them, no variables, nothing on the graph. I don't touch them, right? I don't ever mess with them. They're just children. And here's how you do this too. Before you go and get started, you're gonna make this one, right? And then you're gonna actually, to create the rest of them, you're gonna go blueprint class, and then you're gonna type on there, and you're gonna say item tooltip, and you're gonna see that item tooltip has a base, or the lists the base one right here. So you want to make all of the children from that one. But you can't do that if you go out here and you right click on this and you go asset actions or whatever. You cannot create a blueprint using this. It doesn't like that. So you need to actually go in here, create blueprint class, and say item tooltip here, and you need to click on this base one. And that's going to allow you to rename your common, your elite, your rare, and your legendary ones. And those are all going to be, basically they're all going to be children, right? At that point. And so we've got my base, I've got my 4 children right here. So you make that, and you need to make the actor tooltip like I said earlier. And the actor tooltip is the first one we're going to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and, I think it's the first one we're going to start with. Let me take a look at something here. Actually, okay, we won't start with that one. So let's go, at least, before you move any further with this video, be sure that you have a base and you have some, you at least have a base. That's the main thing. You have to have a base because we're going to be, you putting all the functionality in that base. But these are, if you want to be able to spawn something different, then you have to have these too. So these need to all be here before you continue and go any further. Okay. So we'll go back to the tooltip, the actor tooltip, and this is just like I said. This is the one that is just going to hover over the item. You can decorate it however you like. It doesn't really matter. I have a name, and I have or a type, or I mean a quality, and I have a type of item, and those names get auto-filled at runtime, just like everything else does. This color right here gets auto-filled at runtime by the by one of the it's basically one of the variables. So basically, like on the item itself, there's a color, and whatever color it rolls as is going to give you that color. So that's what I do. It doesn't really matter though. You can do this however you want. If you don't want to have that bar thing, you can just do black, and you can do a name and whatever. So we're going to go over to the graph now, and hopefully, if you needed to take some time to design that really quick, you can. If you already had, that doesn't take a lot of time. I don't want to go over that stuff because it's basically the same type of thing. You create some vertical boxes, some borders and stuff, put some text in there. But the main thing is that you need to remember that when you want things to happen, and be like updated at runtime, the variables or the text and the UMG widgets, like these all have to be binded to something, and I bind them all to variables. So like Royal is going to be binded to my item rarity variable. So in a second here, I'm going to go through all the variables and have you guys just make each one and tell you exactly what they are so that you can go back and do this. And this is the chest. So this is item type variable, and this is the item quality variable, item rarity variable. So it's, you will have to set those after we finish going through this variable section here. So before we get into any of the programming, we're going to come in here, and we're in the actor tooltip again, just remember. And these are the things that you're going to need, okay? So basically, every item that we pick up, or every item, sorry, that we drop on the ground has a structure, a version of the structure, right? And those structure items are the ones that we want to put in here. So we're going to make a variable for each one. And I mean every single one. And then there's going to be an extra one right here. And then a button. So these, we're going to go from the top. The first one is the item master BP reference. So that's like the reference to the master pickup item, because that's the one that has all the functionality, right? And all the others are children from it. So it doesn't really matter if you, as long as I call it item master BP reference, is really what it comes down to. And it is, let's go here. It is an item blueprint master reference. So that's my reference. That's my master reference. You want to, if you named yours master reference something else like super cool item reference master, then or item master, you're gonna have to do and get super cool master item master and then grab that reference. So just make sure that it's the right one. It has to be the master, not the master of the other ones, right? These ones here actually, yeah, you don't want to grab those because see, all of these items are getting their functionality from this main one. So you want to make sure that you grab that one. On the rest of these variables, it's pretty simple. The title image, I made a slate brush, and that allows me to change the image of the, like the quality image at the top. So like whether if it rolls as a legendary, it's going to get that orange title image that's drawn. And so I just go slate brush. You can just type in here slate brush, and then just click that. And the next one is item title, and that's just a text, right? These can be strings as well. If you want to just use strings, you can. I use text because I had already started using texts, and so I just didn't want to go back and change it. So, but if you followed along with the tutorial before in the previous, like the very first one, you probably have text values here. If you ended up following and made string values, then go ahead and make strings here. That'll be fine. So anyway, you're going to need title string, an item rarity string. You're going to need item type, armor value, stamina value, all of the stuff that's in your structure. They don't have to be the exact same name, but I suggest making them the exact same name because it's going to be a lot easier for you to remember where to connect the strings or the little lines if they're all the same names. So I use the same names for every single one all the way down. So all of your structure items inside of your pickup. And the structure, just for reference, because if you didn't follow along with tutorial 1, you shouldn't even be here right now. You should be back watching that and watching 2 and 3 and stuff. But I'm going to go back here just in case. Go get my structure. So this is my item structure, okay? I got all my items right here. And here's all my variables in my structure. And so basically all of these except for you don't need, well, you will eventually want them, but I haven't put them in there yet, but integers for the actual values for like your armor value and stuff, and those will be for let me just go ahead and open the other one because I'm gonna need them all open anyway. So let's go to the base. So the armor values are like right here and stuff. I haven't filled them out yet. They're empty right now. They're blank. They don't actually get They are binded to the values, but those values never get anything because I just haven't finished it. So I'll be kind of going over that later. But you will eventually need every item from the structure in there. So it's best to just follow through. Do weapon damage. If you have weapon damage, if you have an integer value, just put all of them in to your actor tooltip in here. You're going to want a variable for each one. And I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to stop for 1 second because I know most people are probably going to want to stop here and go do all that, which is perfectly fine. Um, and then when you get back, we can, this is where I'm going to be right here. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to and do that, and then come right back and we'll be right here. So hopefully you finished all that. And now this is basically this is a reference to the tooltip like widget that we're gonna have. So remember when we made the base tooltip widget, which is the one that I have over here, that one is the one we're gonna want in here. We want to make sure that that is a whatever you called it, item tooltip. I call it item tooltip, and then base. And you're going to want to make that a reference, not a class, not an asset ID, not a class asset ID. You want reference. And this is going to allow us to place any of the children in there anytime we want to. And it will act as like this nice way of saying, okay, well, you get this one, and you get this one, and you get this one. Each item's going to get one, and it's going to fill that reference slot with either a rare or a common or something. But they're all children of the base class, which is why I'm allowed to use one reference and not have to make 4 different references. It's really simple. So you got to have that, and then the button is a variable because it's a button. Right, so I don't think we use legendary item tooltip reference anymore, since that's just garbage. I have this tooltip reference. So this is really, don't worry about legendary item tooltip, just don't put it on there. In fact, I think I can delete mine because I'm pretty sure I don't. Yeah, so no references found. Let's just delete it. No more. We don't need that. Everything should be here. So now you should be done. You should have all of these filled out. And if you want to see my item structure one more time to make sure that you got everything that I have, then you can. So I have my actor, which translates to my item master BP reference. I have my slate brush for the image. I have my text for the title, rarity text, item title text, float for weapon damage. These things, like I said, I didn't put them in yet, but I have my primary stat text. My stat 1, stat 2, stat 3, stat 4, stat 5, all those text values. And you also need, because the structure doesn't have these right here, these stat values right here, because the structure doesn't need them because we're randomly generating them on the fly, right? So they're not going to be in your structure. So now that you went and did all that, you probably don't have these. So now you're going to need to make sure that you add a stat value on, float, and a float, and a float, and a float. You need 5 different floats for those, or however many you need. If you're only doing 2 stats, then do 2. If you need 3, 4, however many float values you want to randomly generate. Okay. And before that, I had these because this was the end of my thing. I didn't put those in there, so. This is the text color for the title text of the tooltip. So that text is what the color is right here. And the slate brush brush color is the color of the actor color. So this little one right here that I did is my brush color at the very bottom. If you guys don't have that, then you don't have to worry about having a brush color at the bottom here. And I know this is going to be kind of hard to follow because mine might be, different than yours. But just try to remember that if it's in here, it definitely needs, in your structure, it definitely needs to be in the variable section here on your actor tooltip. Okay. And it also will have to have these 5 or whatever stat values as floats. If you don't do these, you're not going to get any random values put into your menu. You might have the text information that goes with it, but you won't have any values to assign to them. So okay, so now I think I went over pretty much all of that, and I hope that you guys were able to follow through that. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about the design. Oh, well, I'm going to start talking about the design of the tooltip. because the actor itself here, the actor tooltip is going to have some functionality, but I'm trying to decide if I want to go over that right now. I think it's best if I don't yet, because we need to get the other tooltip done and set up first before we can really create that functionality. So if you haven't designed one of these and you don't have all this stuff set up, then I suggest you stop the video right now and go set it up. I have a title up here. I have a lot of different items here, but each one is binded to what I want it to be. And the way it is, you set this up the way you want. You put in things like, your title, you want all these to be different text objects also. So like your rarity right here, what kind of item it is. This is not a binded. This just says stats on every item. Armor, stamina, strength, those are static. These values, you want them to be binded probably because you want them to be randomly rolled when you finally do get it done. And so as you go through, this is going to take some time probably, obviously, to make one of these. But it's a lot of just like getting vertical boxes and overlays and different things, however you want them set up. But you need to remember that like there's a value for your stat, and there's a text block that goes with that stat, like what kind of stat it is. So this is the amount in percentage that we're going to have, and then this is the actual like what is it, what value, what item, what are you getting exactly. And so I do one for each, and then another value, another text, another value, another text, another value, another text, another value, another text. And this is one. This is binded to stat value 1, stat value 2, stat value 3, stat value 4, stat value 5. And these ones are binded to stat 1 text, which I just call stat 1, stat 2, stat 3, stat 4, stat 5. It's imperative that you guys make sure that you bind these when you get the variables put in here, because it's going to need the exact same variables except for let me see. Well, let me see here. Where is it? Oh, yeah. Okay. It needs the same variables. Okay. Sorry about that. It needs the same variables as the other one, as the actor tooltip. So it's really simple to just go in here, make your BP, make your title image, make your text color, item title, item rarity. All these ones need to be there. And you will, like I said, you will need to go and make integers for your primary values and different things like stamina and armor. I didn't do it yet. So you'll want those in here also. So the actor tooltip and the item tooltip base should look almost identical in terms of variables. The only difference, the only difference here, this is the most important part, the only difference is that your actor tooltip is going to have float values right here, okay? And your tooltip base, like the one that actually shows the percentages and stuff, that is going to have text values for those, because it has to be changed into a percentage, and it has to be truncated. It has to be appended to text, basically. It has to be turned into text so that it can be displayed on the actual widget itself. Where did it go? So it can be displayed right here on the thing, because this is a text block, not an integer or not a float, right? It has to be turned into text. So, yeah. So again, actor tooltip gets all that stuff but float values for these, and item tooltip master or base gets stat values for those. So you're going to want stat 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 for the text information, but you also want text for the numbers to display. Okay, so I'm assuming now, let's see, you will be probably going through and adding all these variables, getting these to look almost the same. And you'll have, once you get that all done, then and you have this all set up, make sure that you have all of your things are binded. You're going to go in here and say, okay, I want my title to be binded to item title. I want royal to be binded to item rarity. I want chest to be item type. This armor value, which is an integer, which isn't even, getting filled out yet. Armor value in mine is a text because I have to take um, that integer and I have to append it to text or whatever. It has to be changed over to text. So stamina value, armor value, your primary stat value, those things have to be text. Everything has to be text in here, so it can be displayed on the screen. And on your other one, like you'll make those actual values like integers and stuff because they don't need to be displayed on the actor tooltip. You'll take whatever these are, like your integers here, and you can put them in here. In fact, I'll make one right now. So let's just say stamina, and I call my values so I don't get them confused, and I go integer, and I put them in the right location. So part right there, stamina value. Oh, wait a minute, why did I put that as a text? Those don't need to be those need to be text. That needs to be an actual. I don't even know why. I thought I had those there. Didn't have those there already. So stamina value. Those are integers. I must have made them text before on accident. So this can be a text. I mean an integer. I'm going to change that variable type. And we're going to take this and I'm going to delete it because I don't need it. Alright. And I'm going to go over the public and exposed on spawn because you're going to need that in a minute. But let me go ahead and make the other two. I need a primary stat value needs to be an integer. Okay, and armor value needs to be an integer, right? Armor value. So those are the three integers I had on my thing. I also had weapon damage, but I don't have that right now. I'm just not gonna deal with that right this minute. And I'm pretty sure that these three weren't even getting filled in anyways on my actor tooltip when my item spawns. So I'll have to set that up in a little while when we get there. But so the next thing that you need to do is, now that you have all of your variables in both locations, okay, this is the fucking time-consuming part, is you got to go through each one. And you can't really do it like this. You can't shift click, you can't control click. You have to do each one individually. And you need to make them all public. So you need to click on the public to make sure that the eye is visible. And you need to go down and click expose on spawn. Okay? So you need to do that to all of these items. Every single one has to be public and edit and exposed on spawn. The only one that doesn't have to be is the item, the tooltip widget reference, because that one is actually getting filled in right here in this location. It doesn't get used anywhere else. It's not getting handed down by other classes. All of these values are coming from other classes, so that's why they have to be public and edit and exposed on spawn. The button is already going to be public and exposed on spawn, I think. So let's see. We've got all that. You do all that. Get all the values turned to public on both classes now, on your base item tooltip and on your actor tooltip. Public and exposed on spawn, right? Okay. Now we have a base item that's got all the variables. We have an actor tooltip that has all the variables that we're going to need. So we're almost ready to do the functionality now to create the tooltips within the actor tooltip, basically, to create the item tooltips within the actor tooltip. So I know this is like, I bet that just is annoying to have to hear that over and over again. Like, there's so many different tooltip stuff. But we do need a couple functions. Well, actually we don't need two functions. We need one function. and then we're going to make a macro that's going to do everything else for us here in a minute. And I have an extra function that does coloring. So when I hit play and then I click on play and I click on like this, the color of my thing goes from black to gray. And that's preference. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's just something that I did right here in this little function. I made a slate color, and then I make a slate brush, and then I return that if it's hovered. If it's not hovered, then I return black or whatever. So that's a cool little function you can make if you want to for those. And I bind this black border, I think it is. Yeah, this border right here. I bind that brush to that function. So I just made a bind, I created a binding, and then that binding is this function right here. It pops open and says, okay, you know, here's the thing that'll show up. Make background border brush color, and I just put all this in there. Feel free to pause that and look at my values if you want to, and do such. Okay, so now we have that. You've got 2 items, 1 actor tooltip, one item tooltip, and you have all your variables. And I think we can go ahead and you don't need to worry about the event graph. Like, all this is garbage. This was just for testing, so I don't even have it hooked up, as you can see. This was just to see what my percentages were on the screen. It would print them to the screen or whatever. So that's nothing. Go to the event graph on your actor tooltip now, and we're gonna put a set alignment in viewport to 0.5 and 0.5 on the construct event. That's all you'll need there. Alright, 1 set alignment in viewport. Set alignment in viewport. You see? And you just connect it like this, and you just put in there 0.5, 0.54, 0.5, and whatever. So there you go. And you just connect this line. Alright, hit save, compile and save, and then, okay, now we're going to make the macro we need. Okay, so you're going to go to macros, and you're going to make, well, we're going to end up making 2 macros. But let's start with the first one is going to be called all item stats. So plus new macro and call it all item stats and whatever, right? I can't do that again because I've already got one called that. So let's just do this. And it's going to bring you into your macro here. And it's going to have an input and an output. And you're going to want to actually, okay, you know what? Yeah, let's just do it this way. So you're going to have to come here. Here's your output, okay? And you're going to need to go, this is going to make it a lot easier later, so trust me, it takes a while now, but it'll make it easier later. Go to your output, and you're going to want to go down and pull this thing up here. So you want to see all these, basically. So now you want to have, you have like, this will be empty for you guys. You won't have anything in here. You need to hit plus new parameter, and you need to make one for each of your variables that you want to have passed along, right? So one for everything, but they need to be, let's see, stat1, not the stat values. Okay, don't do the stat values in this one. Do all of the, from item master BP reference to brush color, okay? Actually, not even brush color, sorry, to lore. So item master BP reference to lore. All of them in between. And you will want to click on output again. So you make, it's kind of a long process. Another way of doing this, I'm going to show you, but plus, you keep adding them, and you just go in here and you say, I want item blueprint master, and you need to do that for every single one. A reference, and just name it so that you know what it is on here. It'll show up. It'll have it'll open up a slot, and then you can start taking all your variables and you can start putting them out here like this. And so it kind of helps because it's going to make it a lot nicer in a minute. So you know, you can either do it this way, well, the way that I just explained it, by adding all the outputs right here, and then just start dragging these variables out here and plugging them into things. Like my armor value is not the one. This is going to need to be, I think, need to be an integer later because I changed these to integers. But worry about all the ones that you know, if you're confused right now and you're trying to have you're having a hard time picking up on this, just do a few of them here and do some testing. Plug in your item title, plug in your rarity, plug in your type, and just go to your make sure your output has those and that they match your variables, right? But the reality is you need to make sure that at the end you have from the item master all the way to the lore and everything in between. And they all need to be here, and you need to plug them all in. Okay? That's going to be a main macro for this. The next macro, that's going to take some time to do, so pause the video if you need to. Okay, so the next macro that we're going to make is going to be called stat values as percent. And this one is going to be for those stat values that we have. So we're going to have, we're going to go to our output again, and we're going to have 5 text outputs. That's all you need. You could do 1, 2, 3, or whatever, however many you actually have. If you don't have 5, then just put the number you need. And then you're going to grab your stat values, start bringing them out here, okay? And you're going to take them and start lining them up like this, and you're going to go as percent, okay? And each one you need to get as percent, and the new one, so the way that I do it, okay, the new one was going to be set to half to even. I don't do half to even. Okay, so this is the one I just pulled out, and I just said as percent, and this is the one that I had already out here. So the correct settings, the ones that you're going to want to use, are you're going to want to change this to from 0, okay, and you're going to want to put maximum fractional digits to 0. We don't want any extra fractional digits. We don't want to see 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We want to see 16%, right? 20%. We want even numbers that don't have any crap. So, so make sure that you put that from 0 and 0 this out on each of your stats. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do percent and do that for each one. And then plug those text values into your stat value macro outputs that you just made a second ago. Right? Those 5 values that are going to be here now. You plug those in. That's that macro. Okay, so now we got 2 macros. And we can call these now anytime we need to. If you just want to get all your stat values and have them as a percent, boom, there they are right there. They're in the macro. You just grab the macro, and you can't put the macro inside the macro, but you can go to like your event graph and you say, I want to check and see what this looks like now. Grab the macro and just place it there. That's going to be all of those fucking values right there. Oh, what do I want to do with it? Oh, I want to print it to the screen. See what it looks like. There you go. Oh, I want to see what this one is. There it is. Boom. You know, that's the macro that holds all my values, and they're all getting passed into it. They're all getting updated through the macro from the variables that I had right here. When these variables get updated, the macro gets updated. And same thing. You can say, oh, I want to see what the item title is. Print it to the screen. You know, I want to see what any of those are. But I don't have to grab them all and place them all on the thing because I've already done it now. And if I needed to put it in multiple locations, and instead of grabbing every single variable, okay, multiple times, oh, I need to just see it here, and then I need to do it down here. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. I just put the macro here, and then, oh, I want the macro here. Now I got both of them up. They're all set to ready to go. At one, you know, a click of a button, nice and simple. Alright, so the macros are done. Now we're going to move on to the big function that creates the little tooltip item widget here, the little tooltip widgets. This is going to be the one that actually creates those and spawns them on the screen when you hover over the actual actor tooltip here. So you're going to go up here. I have that background brush function here. That was the one that I binded to the border. So you'll probably already have that if you did it now. If you didn't do it, it won't be here. But here's my get item tooltip widget function, right? So if you don't have, if you have nothing here, just go ahead and hit plus, and then just name it get item tooltip widget or whatever you want. Doesn't matter, but just make sure it's something you understand and that you remember. Say now go into that function and open it up, and we're going to go ahead and do this part right now because we should be able to at this point. Because you have the macros and you have all the variables set up. If you don't have them all set up, go back, pause the video as much as you need to, and just check all of your structure variables with your variables that are right here on your lists here for this one and this one. Just make sure that you have those things kind of set up correctly. And like I said before, stat values need to be floats here. Stat values need to be texts on the last one, on the item tooltip. So that's the final destination they get to, and they need to be displayed as text here. And this one, they're just numbers, and we're just passing the numbers through. Alright? Same with the integer in this. That's the same thing. We're passing the numbers through right here. But on this final version, they need to be text because we're going to display it on this one. That's the last location it's going to get to. Okay. So in your get item tooltip widget function, okay, we're going to have this right here. This is going to be this thing you see. Now, you need to pull off of that and go switch, or actually, just get your item rarity variable right here. Just control click that and go switch on string. Oh, cock. What the hell's going on here? Switch on string. Sometimes you have to deselect this context sensitive. And it's because, oh yeah, duh. I have text. If you have, no, it still doesn't matter. No, it is a switch on string. Sorry, it's a switch on string, yeah. Has to be a switch on string. It's not a switch on text. So switch on string, and you have to uncheck context sensitive, and you need to do that. So it'll convert that. And this is why, again, if you want to do this in strings, you can. It does require you to go back and replace all the texts with strings. It's not that hard of a thing to do. It just takes some time. If you guys want to do that, be my guest. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really... strings might run faster, so if you feel like doing it, then yeah, all the more power to you. So we have how many rarities, right? I have 4 rarities. If you guys only have 1 rarity, if you only have 1 type, you don't have multiple rarities, then you only need 1 pin. This will be the only case that ever happens, right? It's only going to spawn 1 thing. It's going to always spawn the same tooltip because that might be the only one you have. And that's fine. If you have more, and if that's the case, then you don't even need to do a switch. Okay, if you have only 1, then don't bother doing a switch. Just don't even. It just takes this and goes and spawns, right? Because that's the only one it can ever do. If you have other rarities and you want to do, you want to be able to determine which ones are going to drop or what dropped and which one you're going to spawn the tooltip for, then you need to do a switch here, and you put in the amount that you need. So 0, 1, 2, 3, because I have 4 different rarities. And then, like as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and just delete this now because that's basically what I have there. Connect that. And I have, each one goes to a create widget, basically, node, and then a set widget reference node and a return node, and that's all it does. Okay, every single one is exactly the same. A create widget node, a set reference node, and a return node. Create widget, set reference, return. See? Create widget, return. Create widget reference return. And so you'll make like one of them. Do your first one, set it up, pull this out, set up the first one, and if you made the children earlier, this is where this is going to come in and be important here. If you made let me set this aside for a second. If you came in here and you have just the base, then you're going to have to use just the base right now to fill this in. You're only going to have item tooltip base. You know, you won't have these other ones. So you'll be clicking tooltip base. But if you made other versions, other children, like I did, which is very important, and this is the reason why I do this. If you want to have other children and whatever, even if you don't, it's a good reason. It's a good idea to just have a base and then a separate child that actually is the one that gets called, because then you're not messing the fucking base. You're not messing around with it. You can always create another widget based on that one. I use it basically as a template. So you have your, and then these children can be called as well, because it's the same. They're all children of that class. So so in here I can go. I want mine to be the royal tooltip, item tooltip. And I have two different ones, and that's because I made an original one, and then I made the new children. And like I told you before, my other ones are the ones here. They're not being used anymore. See, royal item tooltip. It's called. I call mine royal tooltip now. So like, it's just I haven't deleted it yet, so that's why it still shows up in my thing. I'll be deleting it shortly. So as you can see, for this part, you have those four sets, and you're gonna call these different things. So on the string, if you're wondering how I got that set up, you just come down here. I mean, on the switch on string, you click on that, and they show right here. Like as you added the pins, it's gonna bring that up here and go what's the string that we're switching on. And so you write those names in here, like royal, elite, rare, and common. And that's what it's going to check. It's going to check and see if item rarity is equal to royal, then it's going to come up here and it's going to spawn the royal tooltip, okay, that I have. It's going to set that tooltip as a reference to this right here. I just pull it out, set it to the reference. Now this reference is this variable right here, the tooltip widget reference. All you do, that one that I had you make earlier, and you just, it comes out here like this. I can replace this with it. I can go here, connect the lines, and plug that in, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to do anything with the other side. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. And then on the return, you can just return that to there, right? That's what you want to return. That's what's getting binded to as the tooltip. And so now that you have that up, you can go in and go, okay, well, what items, we've got this created, we've created this widget, we've set its reference, and we now have a return value that can go back to something that you're like, well, I don't, well, where is it going to? Because, let me see, actually, you know, now that I think about it, let me make sure that I did this right here. Go back here. Vertical actor tooltip, and where was it? I think the border. I may have forgotten to tell you one thing, so I gotta come here and look. It's the button. Is the button the one that has it? There's the border. Okay. I apologize. You guys are probably wondering why I stopped for a second. So I had you guys make a function, and I forgot that you don't want to just make the function. It's not just that you make a function. It's that you come down to your border that you made for this, and you actually need to put, so I have the border selected that is just this part, not the little color part at the top, just this. So the part that you can hover over is the part that I have selected. And you want to go down, that's the one that has my background brush border color function on it. So you want to come down to tooltip widget here. And you want to make sure that see, don't fill that in. Don't say, that you don't want one in there. You want to bind it to get a specific thing, because that item could be different every time. So you don't want to just put one in here, and even then there's nothing there. So you go to tooltip widget and you're going to want to click create binding. You may be able to actually use that function that I just had you guys set up. It might show here. You can just grab the function. If it's not there, then just create the binding and then go to the function that I had you guys make just now and copy everything that you made and just paste it into that new binding, and it would show up under the functions because it should be a function. So either way, it should still work. Like, you can copy and paste what you just made and put it in there and it'll work. But if you have the option to just go to the designer and select on this, and then it has the function already there that you just created, just click on that and it'll automatically update, and it'll know what's going on. So now that that's resolved, let's see. Hopefully this isn't too hard to follow along. I'm trying to be as pretty much precise as possible without like leaving anything out, and not sitting here, going on and on about everything. So now you guys have this. You guys have the switch. You have this. If you have an item rarity, then you have this set up with the switch. If not, then this is just going to be going right over here. If you don't have item rarities, you're just plugging that in, plugging it right in, and creating the one thing that's there, and all this won't even be here, right? Because you don't need it if you don't have other rarities. So let's disconnect this. So I do have rarities, and so remember that macro I made? Those two macros I made? There they are. See why I made them now? I hope you guys like totally agree that this is a much better way to do it than going in here and saying, hey, I need title. Yeah, I'm gonna plug title in right here. Like, who the fuck wants to do that a million times? Right? We make a simple macro. You could have made them the other way that I wanted to say. Earlier I said, oh, I'll go over another way to make the macro. Well, the other way to make the macro is you take these right here like this, and you grab them, and you go, okay, and actually I put in, two of these. So let's say we wanted to make a macro with this right here. What you would do is you go here and you right click on it, on the, not on the text, but on this part. And you go down here and you say collapse to macro. And that's going to create the macro, but it might gibberish up all your fucking connection lines, and you'd have to go back in and reset them all. And I had that problem because I had already done it, set it up and stuff, so I had to go back in. I had to reconnect all my lines inside my macro, make sure they were all right. But the only cool part about this is that when you collapse this to a macro, it becomes a macro, right? But let's go in here. It has no outputs because you have no outputs because you didn't string those to anything. And so what you have to do is you still have to go in here and you still have to put all your outputs in, and then still plug them in. So it's just I mean, I had you guys set it up earlier. It's not a big deal. I think it worked out better that way anyways. So you already had it. You're ready to go. So what we want to do is drag those macros out now, because you need one of all stats, and you're going to need one of stat value as percent, right? Those are the two things you need. And you're going to be going along there, just like I have them right here. You're going to set them up just like that. And you've got all these things right here. These should all be here. Because when I told you to make sure that these are public and editable, and exposed on spawn, the exposed on spawn part is what makes these show up. So when you want to create this widget and you're spawning it, these are exposed so that you can give it values and pass values right into it as soon as it's created. And so you're going to take your all stat and your stat values, and you're going to grab every variable line and just connect all those down. Stat 3, 4, 5, affix, lore, and then grab your stats as percent and just fill in your stat values. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? And then that one is done. No more needed to be done on that. If you have more rarities, then go ahead now and duplicate all that information pretty much. Well, you can duplicate these. You can duplicate like this stuff, the return and the widget. Probably make a new create widget because it's going to want a new one because this one's already been saved to the one that you had. So you just do that. Then you put your all stats, your stat values, your tooltip reference, same thing but with a different tooltip this time. So whatever the other tooltip is that you want. And so now basically you end up with, after like 4 of them, you end up with your your legendary tooltips being drawn right here, and your epic right here, your rare, and your common, and they're all the same. I mean, I didn't do them anything. It's all exactly the same stuff, same macros. Create item, fill the reference, and then just return, and that goes back to that tooltip binding that we had right here, tooltip binding, and it just says okay. So anytime you hover over that, it's going to create this tooltip. This is on default. Cursor is default because I don't ever change my cursor. I don't like that. So now if you don't have any more, even if you do, if you have only one rarity type, then yours was done earlier when you made the first one. If you have the other rarity types, go ahead and finish adding all that stuff. And then the actor tooltip is the actor tooltip is finished at that point. Like, we don't need to do anything else in it. It's done. All the information is getting passed on to the item tooltips, and so now we can move on to them, and we can have them check and make sure that they're completely done. And I'm pretty sure there's not much in there. So you guys can officially be done with that part of it. And we're going to be moving on now. So I'm going to go ahead and close the actor tooltip, I think. No, I'll leave it open. But I'm going to be going over to the item tooltip base because this is the one that we're going to be doing, checking and making sure. It's just important that when if you haven't already done it, which you should have already done, just make sure that you go, and now that you have all your variables plugged in and that everything is getting transferred to these variables and they're getting passed through, you just got to remember these all need to be binded. So if you haven't binded them, go bind them right now. Every single one on the base item tooltip. On all the children you don't have to because they're going to inherit that information. So yeah, just make sure these are all binded to whatever values we want. This is my affix. This is my lore. It's really, really simple. That's all that. That's all that the item tooltip takes. There's no graph work. There's no functions. There's nothing. Just variables. It's literally just getting all this real-time data right here and displaying it, and that's all it's doing. So, I'm going to go ahead and pretty much call that the end of this video, and I'm going to move on to the video with the pickup item, and that's going to be the last video, I think. So this is the end of tutorial 4, which is covered the actor tooltip and the item tooltip. So we've got both of the tooltips done. And all you really need now is the item to spawn, and well, you need the item to spawn and then spawn that actor tooltip, and then it will do the rest by creating this, right? So the next step in video 5, tutorial 5, I'm going to be showing you how to spawn the item and have it pass all the information to the actor tooltip the same way that this thing passed its information to the item tooltip. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and I will see you guys in video 5.